Jomo Tariku, welcome. Thank you for having us to your show.
No, thank you for coming all the way here to check out the show.
So we're at the Wexler Gallery in Philadelphia, where Jomo has a one-person show that I think is absolutely cracking, amazing.
Thank you.
And I thought it would be interesting to start out by talking about you and your background and how you were drawn into furniture design and what the path was like for you.
Sure. I think unknowingly, I've been on this journey for a while. I say that because my dad was an avid collector of things. Those were the things that, as a kid, that I would draw and sketch. Then later on in high school, he did put us through 2 apprenticeships, 2 summers of apprenticeship at a very small wood shop where I grew up in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Back then, I saw those things as something to do during summer, never thinking I would actually circle back to furniture making or mostly furniture design, because I ended up coming to the US and studying industrial design at University of Kansas. And my thesis, my 5th year thesis in industrial design was how to bring about a modern line of African furniture and how go about it. So, in brief, that was my journey towards furniture. And the thesis was done in '93, and I've been on this journey to bring these ideas to the market and to this kind of space for a while, and finally it's happened.
And so that thesis was something written, something made, a combination?
A combination. So thesis 1 was mostly research. How do you go about, number 1, finding inspirations, and then creating works based on those inspirations, because I really wanted to make a connection with that is based on African themes. And thesis 2 was actually, I ended up prototyping 5 pieces out of all the designs that I made. And back then the approach was, how do you create a whole living room set, dining room set type of thing? So the biggest change since then has been, I'm not focused on creating a whole series for a living space. I've already proven to myself that I can do that. And any of these ideas could be turned into that. So now the focus is, what new ideas can I do and go to the next step and keep working on this idea of creating a design language that I can call my own, that is connected to the continent of Africa. The Diala Antelope is the inspiration behind this work. I'm using inspiration that are not furniture-based also. By default, I think maybe because I grew up sitting on a 3-legged stool, 3-legged chairs and stools fascinate me. So I tend to sketch and draw a lot of these ideas with 3 legs. If 3 legs don't work, then I go to 4 maybe. But that approach actually, did wonders to this design personally. But the inspiration is the Diala Antelope. The horn on the male antelope is just huge. And that photo over there on the wall doesn't do it justice. So I've looked at it. I had actually years ago designed a logo for a publishing company using the horns. And ever since then, and I'm talking about maybe 2005 when I designed that logo. So this idea has been like, can I even come up with a design idea, a chair based on this horn that doesn't look, end up looking ugly because I just stuck what looks like a horn on a chair. So it was a slow progression of toying around with this idea for a while that ended up leading me to this. And many people, when they look at it, people who've looked at this chair have always said, oh, it looks like a horn, job done. Okay? It doesn't have to be this specific. The chair is named after the Diala Antelope, but you don't have to know it's a Diala Antelope. But you get the idea where this concept was derived. So that's good enough for me. I've communicated through the design what I wanted. And on this version, with the developed for a show at Saloni, when I got invited to be part of this installation on African and Latin American designers. I was 20 from Latin America, 20 from Africa. So I wanted to show something new, but I actually had a hard time. I knew I was not capable of building this chair. So I really needed a builder out in Virginia where I lived, because while working on a previous project, the long distance building relationship idea just didn't work out. Again, there's no Zoom back then, so there is limitation how far you can go with communicating with your builders farther away. So it took some time, but I found a local builder out of Columbia, Virginia, David Bonhoff, who saw the sketch, and initially I wanted him to make a different chair just to test our relationship. But once he saw the sketch, he said he wants to build this chair. So he did the prototype of this, the Diala chair, and we showed it in Italy, and it was acquired by a fashion house CEO who wanted the prototype. So he got a copy of the chair. And I thought that was it. I didn't think this chair would have a long life. After that, I knew it was unique. It probably didn't get to everybody's taste. But I loved how it all came together, because just the way it flows, how the legs are made, or how they taper in towards there. Even the bottom of the seat is not flat. So tiny details that I added into the design, and what I back then enjoyed working with David was, I wanted to add these details and changes, and even this tapering part, and he was all for it. It's like, let's do it. And I think having a builder that can understand you and then reinterpret your work, taking your vision is just the best thing you can do. I remember seeing it the first time, and I said, we nailed this. So this version is done now by Justin out of Fernway Woodworking out in Oregon. And one of the reasons Justin is doing this is we needed to scale up production. With interest, we just did 12 copies of this chair for a lodge out of Arusha, Tanzania. And it's the largest order I ever gotten. The intention is not to mass produce these things. Probably this 12 order is going to be the largest. Anyway, the design of this chair, people buy one or two. We haven't had people who buy 15 or 20, but the 12 lodges will get one chair each in each tent. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. And it's a major project for me in Africa. And the goal has been partly to see my work in Africa. I mean, I participate in festivals every now and then in Africa, so glad to see my work there. And on this version with the Holy inlays, this is an exclusive design for Wexler Gallery. So initially when we had our first meeting, I showed him Louis Wexler, I showed him that chair, and he wanted an exclusive piece that they carried. So I took the markings off the Diala Antelope, and then we added the dots, because it has dots right up above the nose, right between the eyes and underneath the nose. And this is just to represent those. So we introduced those. I think it's, we didn't go extreme on it. It's just nice enough. It just, left a nice design signature right in there. And I love the walnut version because the grain, how it flows, and it's my favorite material for this chair.
And was there something, I remember you talking about relating to research into the field and people, African Americans or just people of African descent, and their representation in furniture making or in furniture design.
It was a research on how many Black designers are in the furniture licensing business. And this is a curiosity that came out of me attending many shows and festivals. And I would go to these shows and I would be one of few that I would see. So it was like, am I the only one? Am I one of 3, 5? I mean,
you wanted to nail down that number.
I wanted to know, but the data was not available freely.
And this was when you started looking into that?
So I've been thinking about this maybe around 2015 or 16. By then I had gone to Dubai Design Week. Noticed that I've been to many ICFFs in New York. Then it was a show in Venice, and it continued. So I would notice this. It is just that, when you're the only one or feels like you're one of 3 and you have hundreds of thousands of people, you just, you're curious. So it started out of curiosity. And obviously the challenges I had trying to practice in this field, working for furniture companies, which didn't pan out for me. So I started looking into it. Who are they licensing? And this is the data that I can freely find from each company's website. So I surveyed maybe a little bit more than 160 companies and compiled that data for a presentation at Princeton that later on got picked up by different outlets. And anyway, the end result was 0.33% of designers from the Black diaspora community is hired. My concerns were actually, proven right that there is disparity in the industry.
Yeah.
It's still a challenge. Yeah. A traditional stool found in Ethiopia, again, 3-legged. You have 2 different styles on both. The bottom part is paying homage to Ethiopian stools that have these shapes that are, bent out at the edge of the stool. Again, it's a modern interpretation of a pre-existing stool. Here we do have the bent veneer, walnut veneer as part of the leg, just to emulate this part. And here you have the simplest form. This is the table version, and that's the seating version of it.
Say that again. What's the difference? A table versus
no stretchers here.
Yeah.
And
meant more as a
flat
table.
Top. So yeah, this is a flat top, and that one is dished out like this one. Yeah.
Beautiful. Love that.
And we're hoping this one will be the entry-level pieces. It was specifically designed to be built with as less energy as possible. Simple design, simple joints, small enough to ship. One of the struggles have been, yes, my company does strive to make high-end furniture, but at the same time, the cost of these pieces are, kind of unreachable to a lot of my own friends.
Yeah.
So there's been a drive at the same time. Yes, I want to create highly crafted, beautiful pieces, but at the same time, can I design something that's accessible? Partly you can say this is just the industrial designer side of me, or the entrepreneur side of me saying, can we cover this range? You have gallery version furniture pieces, and you have entry-level pieces.
So going back to your time at Kansas and developing those prototypes, were you working in a wood shop there? Or the industrial design program and the other art and design programs had access to a wood shop. So nothing fancy like what most people have these days as a shop, but good enough for making the prototypes. And I was also fortunate enough. My junior or senior year, the university hired a studio furniture designer who actually resides in Philadelphia, and I saw her after 30 years at one of the shows. Janice Smith ended up being hired.
So she ended up being my, my mentor in a way, because she was the only furniture person that our program had.
And what year would that be? When did you
That
graduate?
would be 93 is when I did my thesis, and she probably got hired 90 or 91. 91 probably.
And then when you came out of that program,
Yep.
were you trying to market
Yes.
your pieces, and were you making them? Did you had a shop?
Both.
You had
Both. So number one, I wanted to get internship and be hired by a furniture company. Had a chance through the university contacts to get a couple of interviews, but they didn't pan out. Then I opened my own small shop, a garage shop.
And
made
where
few
was
pieces.
that?
This was in Olathe, Kansas. It's right outside of Kansas City. But that did, back then there is no Instagram, there's no marketing mechanism to get this story out. So that didn't pan out. Then I moved to Washington, right outside of Washington, D.C., in Alexandria, Virginia, in 2000, and partnered with a childhood friend to start a studio, a multidisciplinary studio, because we knew the furniture would still be a struggle. So we had a graphic design business on the side that pretty much subsidized the furniture side. Again, getting traction. This was between 2000 2008. I think we had one museum show and one trade show in 8 years, because that's all that the exhibit is the one we could afford, Architectural Digest show in 2004.
In New York.
In New York, and in 2008, we showed at the Science Museum in Chicago, a show on Black creatives, probably one of the first to be done by a major museum.
And when you had that business, were you manufacturing the stuff that you showed?
Back then, yes. So between 2000 and 2008, I would say 80% of the things we made, and there was not that many, were made by me.
And so you guys had a shop?
No, so the great part was there was a membership thing that Woodcraft was doing. They had a very nice shop, which they unfortunately closed years down the line.
And that's in Virginia?
That's in Virginia. Now they don't have that membership option anymore. But they had so I started that membership thing in Kansas City, which they even had a larger shop. So there was no need for me to build a shop in my garage.
Oh, wow.
And we did it again, but now, since they don't have it, I have a very small shop in my garage. And as you can see, I utilize different craftspeople from one corner of the US to the other, from Oregon all the way to Maine. I have builders spread out who work specifically on, one chair or one stool. So this is based on a mortar, and we have it set up here. So this is the inspiration. And just to explain to you, this whole show was, when Wexler approached me to do a design show, they literally said, take this space and turn it into whatever you want. All we want, or between both of us, we wanted to create a museum level show. And initially, we wanted it to be, if we could find a museum partner, we wanted it to be in a museum because there is an educational component of it. I'm showing you these inspirational works above mine to demonstrate what designers can do when they take ideas from any place, for me, Africa, and do, through testing, through sketching, through ideation, create new pieces. So this one was inspired by a mortar, and there's an Ife bronze head. These are the bronze heads found in Nigeria that have these neck rings.
Oh, yes.
So, and you might, if you've watched Black Panther, you see the soldiers wearing those. So this was a simulation of that, and the reason we kind of painted it gold, even though the other one is bronze. So sometimes I merge ideas, so it's not strictly, I see something and that becomes the inspiration. So again, here is the mortar and those neck rings all combined together.
Right.
And when I do research, it's always with the mindset of things could be combined and simplified at the same time. So this is one of those.
And is this a turned piece?
This is a turned piece. It is turned by David Sterling out of Richmond, Virginia.
And how does he start out? Is he
He glues
like a stack lamination?
a stack lamination, mostly like this. So he turned this one too. So you can see him stacked like that. Because this one is painted so nicely, it's hard to tell. There is a natural version of this. Maybe we can pull out an ash version that I really love. None of the rings are on it, but that kind of shows you the lamination when it comes to it. Yeah. This is again turned by David Sterling out of Richmond, Virginia, and this was inspired by a clay water jug that is pretty popular in different parts of Africa, mainly used as a water vessel to carry water over long distance. So this was a reimagination of that this water jug into a piece of furniture. Again, you can actually open this. We've hollowed it out. It also helps with weight because of the shape. Actually, the first prototype that we did was solid, and it was not actually easy to grab. Now with that, actually, it's also easier to move around to lift it, and it is made out of ash and walnut with walnut trimming at the top.
Very
But you
nice.
can see the lamination going on here.
Right.
This is a prototype based, again, the design team behind it is a drum. These are drums used in Ethiopian Orthodox churches. This is actually a retired one that we got a loan from a church out in New York. It's all plywood. I know it's not fun for a lot of wood turners to turn plywood. But it's again, another piece that you can open. You can actually see what it looks like inside.
And so why was this done in plywood as a...
It was, I had a fascination with plywood and what it could be used for. So I went through a series of things that I made out of plywood, and you can see them here. I know some people don't like using it, but I'm just curious what you can do with it. For me, it's just, again, as a product designer, it's just another material to experiment with. Plus, the consistent horizontal lines that you see, I find them fascinating. And when you start carving them, and there's a carved piece in the other room over there that I'll show you for one of the chairs, it actually has this interesting pattern that it creates. So for me, it's just fascination. It's just another material to play with. It's not the easiest material, I'll admit to that. It's very unpredictable when it comes to finishing it once you expose the layering.
So is this stacked also? Like
Yes.
Rings that are glued
Yep.
together in a stack?
Yep, stacked. And this one got turned, and this one actually was, I hated the one I had prior to this, so I actually CNC'd this. This is all stacked and CNC'd to fit it.
And is that something you do? Did you say you have a CNC yourself?
I do, yeah.
So you have a shop at your house?
I have a very, very small shop packed with a lot of tools.
But you do some prototyping?
I do some prototyping. I made those tools. So small things, curious things I want to experiment with, I would use the shop. But the goal is, if I like a design, is to go to high-end crafts people to get it done at the highest quality as possible.
Yeah, that must be fun to see it come
It
back.
is,
Wow.
yeah. Initially, it wasn't fun, but I think I've assembled great people to work on my projects. So now I think it's fun. Yeah.
As of 2008, there was a time when you shifted to a kind of day job.
Yes.
And what was the story of that?
2008, economy was slowing down. I was married, I had kids, so I decided, I can't continue the studio business. As you know, 1 month would be great, and 1 month would be famine. So I decided to walk away. I got employed by World Bank. World Bank was one of our. I had World Bank clients when we had the design studio, so it was a natural transition to become an in-house designer on the graphic side, not furniture. And I ended up getting a job at the Data and Statistics Group. And that's how I got into data. And we were talking about the data research earlier. That's where I learned how effective it is to use data for storytelling. And that's why, I did that research we talked about. But at World Bank, I was mostly designing initially books or managing large publications through third parties that we worked with, and supporting, people in the management group, mostly statisticians and economists, designing websites, building data visualizations, still in the creative field.
I see. So it's data, it's design of data.
Yeah. So data presentation in books, and sometimes it's pages and pages of tables, but nicely done.
Different kind of table.
Yeah, that's when you start appreciating suddenly how Wall Street Journal is put together or something, because now you are the type of person who produces those things.
Right.
So I did that until 2021. Then 2021, I decided, in the meantime, around 2015, sudden interest in my work would pop in every now and then.
You mentioned something about a book that
yes,
a woman wrote. What was
that would
story?
be 2015 is exactly when that book happened. Tapiwa Matizende, who's British from the Zimbabwean, she has a Zimbabwean descent, reached out to me saying, I'm doing a book on African designers, and I would like to include you. And my reply, I think, kind of was, I haven't, I still design, but I've stopped producing them. I don't have physical works anymore. I don't go to the shop. Like I said, Woodcraft was closed, so I don't have a shop. I don't make anything. And she said, even if it's the old stuff, and I didn't want to share my old stuff, but she said, I want to put it in. So that was followed by a design festival from Ethiopia who said, we know of your work, we want to show it. Again, I don't produce these things anymore. At best, they're sketches or 3D renderings, and I don't want to show them. They said, okay, send us the 3D rendering. And then the same show came back and said, we've been invited to Dubai, but we don't want your 3D rendering or sketches. We want the actual thing. And I said, okay, now I feel like there's some momentum of getting these queries of people wanting to show my work. So, I would dabble in it, but I was never sure. My strategy back then was, when I'm 65 and I retire from the World Bank, I will get into this. It's safer that way. But it just kept on, the requests and the interest in the work on a yearly basis, the intensity, was getting higher and higher. So 2021 was when I said, it's time to give my full attention. This is a perfect example of one of the stools that I designed. This is the first time, actually, we're using dual colors. We usually, it's a one-color project until, for this show, I decided to experiment and dye it. Because most people don't think this thing actually are two pieces where you can pull out the pin and just adjust the height. So I think it's one indication to say it's not a one piece, it's a two piece. Well, three piece if you count the pin. But this started as an exercise when my brother challenged me saying, hey, everything as of late you're designing are pretty expensive pieces because you're using, again, high-end makers to make you these things, material and everything else. Can you do something in your prototype shop that you can, knock on the side, So it started as an exercise. Again, I don't have much space. So I said, you know what, it's a good way to see if I can make something out of plywood. And the first idea was that stool that I did, then this one, then this is the last one that I came up with the design. It's also, it's actually, I know it's all glued up together, but the seat part, all these parts are cut from the inside. So when we mill it from the CNC, as it's cutting this, it's cutting part of the stool. So
that is wonderful.
Material-wise, well, the first design, actually it wasn't. Then I looked at it and said, I'm only off by like 1 inch. If I just knock off an inch, I can actually cut part of this. So it was about being efficient with material to reduce cost. And I love the design. This is MoMA Design Store carries the black version of the series.
Can we take a look at that? So this was your first one?
This was the first one. This finish and idea was the first one. Then the black one came, and the black one is the one MoMA Design Store carries. One of the reasons in this show we put the inspirations right above each work is you can make the visual connection the moment I put it up there. If I was at a show and you asked me what inspired this design and I told you it's a headrest, you probably would have like, what is a headrest? Unless you've been to parts of Africa where they've used these small headrests. And part of the reasoning behind this is, at least from the tribe that this is coming from, is they have pretty intricate Afro styles, and they're mostly herdsmen that are out and about. And if they want to rest, you don't want to squash your Afro. This goes nicely in there. And again, part of my design exercise is when I find things like this that I could easily scale up. And I could have blown this up to that size and called it a day because you can sit on it now. But I don't want to do that type of design exercise. That's, for me, you're not inspired, you're kind of copying it. So, I looked at this and I said, man, if this could be telescoping, it would be great. If I could add that functionality. So that's where this whole idea of height adjustment came. And I went through so many ideas to come up with, how can I make it telescoping without adding some mechanical thing in there.
Right.
And finally, this is what I came up with. And this work inspired the Ashanti stool. This is probably, one of my favorite African stools that I've always liked, but I really wanted to do my own reinterpretation of it. Didn't know where to go with it until I did this design. Because the moment I did this one and the height adjustment kicked in, I said, time for the Ashanti stool to be reimagined from my perspective. And I'm very glad this is in MoMA's collection now. And these 3 have been in the Black Panther movie, 12 copies of them. Hard to find them, but they're in the back end.
And what can you tell me about that? Is this called Ashanti?
It's called, it's from the Akan people. It's called the Ashanti stool. There's a gold version of it, from my understanding. In Ghana, it's from West Africa. I think it's propping up. This is like the seat of heaven, is my understanding. And this is propping that up.
It's amazing. It's hollowed out inside that column, or what?
Yeah,
or is it just carved straight through?
It looks hollowed out.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, partly hollowed out. Yes. Yep.
Very cool.
Good eye. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So so I do. For me, material is just, as long as it's available, something to experiment with and use. I know plywood within the woodworking community gets a knock, but as a designer, I just don't see the issue at all.
I think, you're using it so beautifully.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm actively working is how to change the design canon that feels like is very Eurocentric on its approach, and who is in this canon. So for me, I want to make the argument using my design work, saying people from different regions of the world are making impactful works. And we can't, in one hand, keep saying design is a global language, but is not as inclusive. So instead of just making the argument, I'm demonstrating it, how it could be done by the work I'm doing, and saying we need a revision of this approach. And I wanted the industry to start looking at creatives coming from every part of the world and what they can contribute. Now, I can do that, vocally, or I can demonstrate it by my work. So I'm doing it both ways. There's the data part and making sure there's awareness of the issue. And then there is the work that says there's great work being done from this part of the continent or region, or the design thinking that's coming from there. So is a combination of these things that I'm trying to demonstrate.
I am also interested in your approach to designing each piece.
Yes, so that's the part I missed, I think.
What ties them together?
So what ties it for me, in a way, I've developed my own design language that takes ideas from the continent of Africa. And that's purposeful. It's not that I, as an industrial designer or furniture designer, I can't do a furniture piece that you can easily say, oh, that looks like Danish furniture, or that looks like a style that came from Italy or France. I'm more than capable of doing that. So I, on purpose, because of this argument I'm making about changing the canon, I'm making all my connections and my inspirations come from the continent of Africa, and just giving it a modern reinterpretation from the way I'm seeing it. And the inspirations are not necessarily other furniture pieces, but it could come from anything. It could be, right behind us is a chair inspired by a wildlife, an antelope. There are pieces here inspired by architecture, by a headrest. So my resource and my inspiration could be anything. I just want it to be from the continent of Africa. And I can then I can use that as a launch pad to come up with new ideas. And I really believe this approach has also helped me design unique pieces that you can't confuse with somebody else's work. Or else, my next chair would have looked like, I just came back from Paris and I went to Maison Objet to just see the trade show, what it is all about. And I saw so many chairs that are a synthesis of a Hans Wegner chair. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't want to be that designer who takes this great design, tweak it a little bit, and call it my own. I want to just have a different inspiration. And by looking at these things, it has helped me design actually, signature pieces that I can call my own, instead of something that looks a spin-off of a pre-existing, well-celebrated piece. And the first thing that will come to you as a person looking at these objects, say, oh, that looks like somebody else's work. Well, yeah. It helped me with developing this language just by focusing my inspirations to come only from Africa. Probably has to be the most complicated chair to make that I've ever designed. I knew even when I designed it, it won't be easy. I really wanted to do a bent veneer. This one was made by David Bonhoff also, who did the first Diala chair. So
and it's a bent lamination all the way down?
Bent lamination, there's 16 layers. This one is ash, 16 layers of veneer to make 1 inches, 1/16 of an inch veneers. And each part is bent on a separate mold and all put together.
So how many side to side are there?
There's 3, 2, 3. So there is 6, 8. So we're mirroring. So mold count is about 5 to make this the front part, except these two get different treatment. And then the mold is used with a router to shape these pieces to create. So we bend them flat. Obviously, this piece comes up to here. Then the centerpiece is the most difficult one because this whole piece is one all the way there. And trying to do that bend, and both of us are turning clamps, to put it into shape. So there's that part, but one thing you can't see here is how the back leg is coming into the top part of the seat. There's and it is shaped. The whole thing is, the theme is the Afro comb, and even the joint that you see here is in the shape of a comb. So it just comes from behind and like a finger, just comes together nicely, and that is a pretty tight fit.
The comb joint.
Not the easiest, not the easiest joint, because you can't see it,
right?
But you can barely see it here. That is how tight the fit is.
The back legs are coming in.
Yep.
Interlaced with the seat.
So right through this hole. So this is the only gap you see. And the walnut version of this is still on display at the Met. The Afrofuturist Period Room has one copy, and Philadelphia Museum of Art has another copy, but they had a show on chairs, and it was on display for a while. So this is a bronze version, again, with the gallery. Louis wanted me to experiment with a different material, so we decided the Mido maybe is ready for a bronze version. In the moment we got this chair, the whole idea of displaying it as a throne at Design Miami came about. It didn't work out there. So when I did the solo show, we revisited that idea, and that's why we have this whole display of Afro combs. Initially, the idea was all of the things that I've shown you with the inspirations being above my work. Here was, I was gonna bring all these small Afro combs from back home and do an installation. Then I noticed how many I'll need, and it would be overwhelming. So I came up with this design idea. I really wanted to make this the center, the main focus of the show with this amazing space. So I created this wall sculpture that would go along with this chair. And I love it. I love the difference from the wood version. It's really hard for me to pick which one I like. I like both of them for different reasons. That one more because I understand the process and what it took us to build that chair and what kind of effort that was put in by the builder. This one was kind of transparent because, I've never made a chair out of bronze, so I can't tell you how it's made, other than saying it was done in a foundry. But I love the end result. This is half-inch thinner than the wood version. Mm-hmm. For two reasons, I think. One of them is obviously weight and cost. Then the other one was, as it was explained to me, was if we make it thicker, we're gonna have problem with, when it cools down with expansion and contraction. So keeping consistency would be difficult. In the 70s, Afro hairstyle in the US became a political statement also. The whole Black is Beautiful movement was started, people keeping their hair natural, and you comb your hair and stick it in. There were two popular combs that were famous. One of them was like the arm which actually folds, so you can put it in your back pocket. And the other one was this design, because it has a handle, So the idea was a merger from this movement in the US and how popular these things were in Africa. My uncles had these type of combs growing up. They also kept
the Afro-pick kind of thing.
The Afro-pick and city
and which
people,
would be plastic, right?
Which would be plastic, and the very popular wooden version in Ethiopia, which you still can find them. This is a beauty product at the same time was making a political statement in the US. And at that time, movies like Shaft were being made and were being shown. My uncles would watch it and they would emulate the style they were seeing from an American film. So the bell-bottom pants, the elevator shoes, and the Afro comb. Even though there were ethnic groups within Ethiopia doing the same thing, so it's a weird overlap. And the whole thing fascinated me. And this object captures all of that into one for me. So again, it's not another furniture that inspired my work, but it was something that I looked at and again was challenged with, just like the Diala I was explaining it to you, can I do a reinterpretation of this object as a furniture piece without, making it look too ugly, pretentious, or something else? So that it was part of that whole exercise. The walnut version is the first one we did. Then the black one that we just saw is the second one. This came in last. This has to be one of the geometrically shaped pieces that I've created. It is based on a prayer staff, again, found in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. It is used by deacons, nuns, priests as a support. You put the staff underneath your chin. It's another three-legged chair. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm fascinated by it. It probably is one of my most geometrically shaped piece with interesting details, like the legs are six-sided, which created a challenge on how to create the joint right here. This version, the previous version was, again, made by David Bonhoff, but this one is made by Square Manufacturing out of Maine. And they're using 5-axis CNC to mill all of the parts and put them together. So, it has these really sharp corners and edges that I love. With, again, I like adding tiny details. The bottom is not flat. It actually tapers in. I think it accentuates this idea that I have with the sharp corners. Is, gets translated to the seat, then to the backrest. And I call it my stealth chair because it has that look from a stealth jet with all the sharp corners. Yes, one of my favorite chairs is surprisingly a comfortable chair because the backrest hits your back right at the great spot. It's a very small chair. It was initially a sketch that I did, German manufacturer, and we went through the whole licensing discussion, but it never materialized. But we went ahead and produced it, so that was my chair.
Nice. And how about this guy right here?
This is my latest chair. It's called the Jomo Chair. The inspiration is right above it. This is the traditional chair where they haul out every part of it to create the shape. Is one piece. It's made out of what is back home is called a Wanza tree. I don't know what the equivalent is in English, but it's again, just like the Shanti stool, this is a chair that has been on my radar for a long time. It was a matter of what kind of reinterpretation I'm going to make, taking this idea and creating my new piece. And when we're planning for the show, with every shows that I do, I create a new piece, and this was one of the anchors of the show. It was a challenging chair. Again, the design looks very simple. The making is the difficult part. Had a great team to work with. That we got together where I fabricated part of it, and they fabricated the backrest, and they also put it together nicely. It's the first prototype. There will be some more refinements that will be coming up. There are a few tweaks that it needs, but that's why you do prototypes and you go through the whole exercise to see what is possible. So,
and you were talking about your design process as you made it and figured out how it would go together. I wonder if you could show us a little of that.
Yeah, sure. Let me bring this over there. So as of late, instead of just 3D printing my pieces as a one full piece to show my builders, what we go through is I actually fabricate like a Lego piece, all the different parts. Oh, this is stuck.
Where'd that knife go?
There we go. So this is actually how the next piece will be made. The bottom part, the dome, will be milled on a CNC with registration marks here. Then we will lock this in on a routing jig. Then we route those 3 parts out. The puck is also gonna be a CNC piece that will go in there. Then the legs with the puck will go in here. And again, the same registration marks will be used to align the top and bottom part of the seat. And another jig is going to help us route out a finger joint right there that will hopefully help us lock in the backrest. Again, this will be another prototype, and we have to see how well this idea works, not only for fabrication, but to check how much wood movement is going to affect these joints. Chair design and making is a lot of experimentation sometimes until it's refined. I'm hoping this is the last idea, but it might not be. Things will change as we learn if this is an effective method of making this chair. And this will still be same process. We're going to use bendable ply with veneer on top of it. Patterns. This is just one pattern. The idea is to develop different patterns that will be milled into these parts or cut out. This is just a first iteration. Just, to honor what they've done with each builder who makes the Jomo chair from the region it comes through, comes up with their own pattern. So, kind of continue the same tradition, but put my own patterns instead of just copying theirs.
And a slightly different process.
Oh yeah, this I don't know. Maybe has a 9 to 10 parts versus no parts or one piece. But a very hard way to make,
Right.
But that's part of the appreciation we have for these pieces. The traditional way of making versus I'm a person who went to a university, studied product design, and my approach obviously has got to be different. But that's why in any of these displays, we are displaying the inspirations above my work is in a way to elevate, appreciate, and give credit to where my ideas are coming, and for the craftsmanship, for the people who did this. These objects are pretty much made for, some of them, for daily use. So unlike me, a designer who gets to label his work with his name, I don't know who made this. I know what region it came from, but they don't sign this. At the bottom of these seats, we laser burn my name, the year, it's made, and the material, whatever. This has none of it. This is made for strictly utility. They look like an art piece, so the appreciation is because of that. The person creating it is, creating these beautiful pieces without even knowing they're creating art. So, I'm making that connection with tradition, and me being a person from this century and redefining it, translating it to new works, but at the same time not forgetting where they came from. Again, give them the same name. This is a Jomo chair. My name is a Jomo chair. I'm hoping you, as a visitor of the show or curious enough about my work, by its name, you can Google and search it and try to find out more about it if you're curious enough. So we're making all these connections, so it's not only, I could have done a show with only showing you the chair. Though this was not necessary. This was a complicated process to curate all these pieces, and this came from a friend, some of them were donated to me by other artist friends from different parts of Africa, like the Dogon stool. Some of them came from a church. So it was not easy. I had enough challenge producing these, working with the different craftspeople and making some of them myself, in addition of this and cataloging and telling the story. So, yes, the reason that we're displaying them up there is because they're very dear to me. I wouldn't have this amazing career if I was not basing my work on these things, or things that I mean something to my country people, my family, and so on. So this is why we're showing them.
Oh, that's fantastic.
This is a fascinating piece again from Ethiopia. I did not know about the existence of this chair until 2 years ago. The reason we're displaying it is there's a chair that Carnegie Museum acquired that was inspired by this chair. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. The loan process just takes too long, so we don't have that chair here. But I wanted to show the inspiration because there are seats kind of based on this concept in the what I call the Afroofuturist Room. This is where I'm showing my experimental work. They're still functional pieces, but they're more on the experimental idea. But what I love about this chair is it has this backrest that you can pull out. And
did you say where this is from?
this is from Ethiopia also.
And what the function is?
It's like a lounge chair. It's a low-seating lounge chair. So prior to seeing this, I thought I had discovered something new where I came up with the idea of a chair where you can remove the backrest, and we can move in there. I can show you. So, this was inspired initially by a chair a friend of mine made. She's a sculptor from Ethiopia also. This is kind of like the traditional birthing chairs.
Birthing chair?
They're called birthing chairs. Finding documentation is next to impossible on these things. So anyway, with these chairs, if you pull out the seat, the whole thing collapses. So I said, you know what, can I reverse this whole idea where the seat actually is static and you can pull out the backrest? So the first piece that I did, there is a bent plywood version of this chair. This is the acrylic version. Was, using, no gluing going on here. There's just two planks or two shapes that you put together. You can pull out the backrest and display it as a totem, and you can swap them. You can introduce new designs. And unlike the other things that I've done that barely has any carving and just mostly clean lines, this is towards more like some of the pieces that I'm showing that are my inspirations where carvings are introduced into it. And when it comes to this series, I have about 120-something patterns that I've developed that could be carved. You can swap the seats from any of these designs.
So those three above are
so this chair, if you end up buying it, you get all four pieces. So you can display the other three as totems, and one of them becomes the backrest. And front and back would have different patterns if you want, or different colors. So literally you can have one chair with four backrests that you can change the style. There was even one version where you can intertwine scarves into it, so you can put your scarf and you become part of the design process where you can put one scarf one day and a different one because they come in different colors and patterns. So for the next synthesized version for this show, this is the one I finished right before the opening, and this is based on the Maasai shields, which are kind of oval. Again, I reached out back to my friend who did these. We couldn't find the Maasai shields on time to display here. So she did paintings of Maasai warriors holding a shield and spear. She paints also, and she did that mass carving over there that you see from things she found in my shop. They're all found object. It's a chair at the same time. It's a totem. You can swap it, and you can see it here. If I can pull this out. I mean, this is plywood, and if you swap it, it becomes. This is plain version right here. In the future, the idea with this chair series also is to send this out to artist friends of mine to do anything they want on it. Sculpture, painting, I don't care what you do on it, and see if we can collaborate on a project where I provide the base and the artist provides what the backrest would be. So it's something that I'm experimenting. Hopefully we can do it. But for this show, I quickly did these, and they're all carved on a CNC. And I don't know if you can see, I don't know what I did on this side. So there's nothing painted on this one. I think we have, yeah. So this is what a plain version looks like. But if
And
that's,
are you making these, the blanks,
Yeah.
in your shop?
I make these blanks in the shop, and
And CNC, the
yeah.
design?
Again, I can, I sketch these things. I come up with these ideas and patterns. And the whole idea is to, how can you make a chair change its nature by just simply changing the backrest? So again, it's more experimental versus, I'm designing a specific chair for sitting and its nature never changes.
Yeah.
While this one, depending how many of these totems you have, you can keep changing it. I mean, if you're one of those handy persons, you can even make your own backrest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jomo, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was
Thank
really
you, John.
so
Really
fun.
appreciate your visit and taking the time to talk about my work and the exhibit we have going here until February 14.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.